Most people think the scariest part of being alone at home is the silence. They're wrong. The real horror is when the silence starts replying. Ethan Turner had never been the type to scare easily. He worked long night shifts at a logistics hub in Colorado, lived alone, and rarely spent time thinking about anything supernatural. His life was simple: work, eat, sleep, repeat. No drama, no chaos, no misteri. But that changed in the weeks after his mother died. Grief hits people in different ways. For Ethan, it came as an ache he carried in his shoulders. Always there, always heavy, but never loud. He kept himself busy because silence was the one thing he wasn't ready for, not after losing the only person who actually checked on him. So when his manager offered him a week off after noticing the bags under his eyes, Ethan agreed. He didn't know it would be the worst decision he'd made in years. His house wasn't old or creepy. It was a basic 2-bedroom rental in a quiet American suburb. Beige walls, gray carpeting, nothing fragile, nothing sentimental. He liked it that way, but on the second night of his break, something shifted, barely noticeable at first. It started with the hallway light. Ethan remembered turning it off before going to bed. He was certain. He had walked the hallway, switched off the light with his elbow, and closed his bedroom door. But at 3:17 a.m., he woke up thirsty and saw a warm strip of yellow light leaking under his door. He sat up, stared, blinking hard as if that would change reality. That's odd. There was no reason to panic, but his brain fired warnings anyway. Not loud, not frantic, just aware. Ethan opened the door slowly. The hallway light was on. Everything else looked normal. No footsteps, no drawers opened, no shadows moving around. Just the hallway light. An accident. A memory slip. He could live with that, except the switch wasn't in the on position. It was floating in the middle. Not up, not down. Stuck. He flicked it down. The light went off. Something about the way the plastic resisted felt wrong, like someone had been holding it a second ago. Ethan forced himself to step away. He had seen switches get stuck before. Nothing supernatural about it. He went back to bed. He didn't notice the faint sound of breathing at the end of the hallway. So quiet it blended perfectly with the house's stillness. The second incident happened the next afternoon. Ethan was microwaving leftovers when he heard the front door unlock. Not jiggle, not rattle. Unlock. A metallic, unmistakable click. He froze with a plate in his hand. Nobody had a key. Not anymore. He walked to the front door slowly, deliberately, every step measured. There was no dramatic horror movie music, no sinister ambience. Just the hum of his refrigerator and the faint ring in his ears. The deadbolt was unlatched. He checked the peephole. Nothing. He opened the door. Nothing. The entire street was empty except for a passing Amazon van. He locked the door again. This time, he tugged it twice to make sure it was fully shut. Then he walked backward, eyes on the door, feeling like someone had just slipped out instead of trying to get in. That night, he heard footsteps. They were soft, careful, almost polite, like someone trying not to be heard. At first, he assumed it was from outside. Houses shifted. Pipes settled. Neighbors walked around. Normal stuff. But these footsteps were inside. Slow. Consistent, moving directly in front of his bedroom door. Ethan held his breath, listening. The footsteps stopped right outside. He waited for a knock, or movement, or breathing. Nothing. After 10 long seconds, he gained enough courage to whisper, "Hello." Silence. The kind that feels thick, heavy, as if it's pressing back. Ethan forced himself to check. He opened the door a couple inches, enough to peek through. Nobody. No footsteps. No movement. But the hallway light was on again. And this time, the switch was fully in the off position. That's when he realized. The switch turning on wasn't the scary part. Something was walking around his house in total darkness. The next morning, Ethan tried to convince himself it was sleep paralysis or half-dreaming. He wasn't afraid, fear felt too childish. Instead, he felt a cold logic forming in his head. Someone is in the house. Not a ghost. Not a demon. Someone. Maybe they'd been living in the attic or slipping in through the back door. Maybe it was a neighbor messing with him. Maybe it was grief making him lose focus. He didn't know yet, but he knew he needed proof. So he set up his old phone in the hallway, leaning it against a book, camera facing the living room. No motion detector, no app, just a simple recording while he slept. At 2:58 a.m., the footage began to change. A shadow crossed the frame. Slowly, deliberately, not shaped like a person, not shaped like anything with a face. It moved as if gliding, body shifting like it was half liquid, half human. The hallway light blinked on behind it, as if acknowledging its presence. Ethan watched the recording 5 times. By the 3rd time, his hands were shaking. It wasn't human. It wasn't an intruder. And it wasn't his imagination. Something faceless had been living in the quiet corners of his home, watching him, learning him, moving around when he slept, standing outside his door at night. And now, he knew. Most people, when confronted with undeniable proof of something unnatural, break in one of 2 ways. They panic and run, or they deny until reality buckles. Ethan did neither. His mind wasn't built for emotional collapse. He approached the impossible the way he handled broken machinery at work. Analyze, isolate, eliminate. But what lived inside his house wasn't a machine. And it definitely wasn't broken. It was studying him. Ethan replayed the footage at breakfast. It didn't matter how many times he watched it. The shadow moved the same way every time. A fluid distortion sliding across the wall. No limbs, no face, nothing human. It entered the frame from the left, paused as if staring directly at the camera, then melted into the darkness before the hallway light turned on. He paused on the frame where it seemed to acknowledge the camera. Most people think fear is loud. It isn't. Fear is quiet. Fear is when your body realizes running won't help and screaming won't save you. His fork shook in his hand. He wasn't alone. And the thing knew he wasn't supposed to see it. He reacted the only way he knew how, methodically. He grabbed a notebook and created 3 columns: time, what happened, possible explanation. He wasn't trying to debunk anything. He was trying to understand the pattern. Every horror story has one, and patterns can be exploited. He listed the events. 3:17 a.m., hallway light on. 4:50 p.m., front door unlocking. 2:13 a.m., footsteps outside bedroom. 2:58 a.m., shadow recorded. Under possible explanation, he wrote, active when the house is silent. Avoid silence. It made sense. Every incident happened in moments of stillness, late night, early morning, quiet hours when the house felt dead. So he turned on the TV. Not to watch, just to keep the silence away. He walked through the house, letting the low hum fill the rooms. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Like a staged home. But by afternoon something changed. The air felt heavier, as if the walls were listening. He entered the bathroom and froze. The mirror was fogged. Fully fogged. Like someone had taken a long hot shower. But the shower was bone dry. He wiped the mirror, and the fog instantly reappeared. Not natural. Not possible. Something had been standing there, breathing, face inches from the glass. The temperature dropped so fast his breath came out white. He backed out slowly, saying nothing. He left the bathroom door open. He needed to know if anything changed. That night he avoided sleep. Lights on. Coffee at midnight. YouTube playing non-stop to keep the air vibrating. But around 1:40 a.m., he heard something. Typing. Fast. Sharp. Violent typing, the kind of speed no human fingers could match. Came from his office. He walked toward the sound. With every step the typing grew louder, more frantic, like it knew he was coming. When he pushed the door open, the typing stopped instantly. The keyboard sat untouched. But the monitor showed a single line. Don't watch me. His stomach dropped. His hands went cold. Something had typed that. Something that didn't want him observing it. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a warning. It was a rule. The thing reacted to surveillance. Cameras. Observation. So Ethan made his worst mistake yet. He set up more cameras. 3 of them. Hallway. Living room. Bedroom door. Continuous recording. If it didn't want to